welcome to episode 100 of the Craft House Magic podcast. My name's Ellie and I'm coming to you from Norwich in Norfolk, and today is the 23rd of January. So welcome everybody. I hope you've all had a lovely crafty week since the last time I've spoken to you, and I'm here to share all the things that I've been making in the last 7 days. So today we have some knitting, some crochet, and because it's the 100th episode, I'm going to do a special tour of my craft room. And I'm going to show you some of the storage ideas that I've got. I've been making this craft room for 5 years now and it's still not 100% right, but I think I've got a few things that I'm really happy with, so I thought I'd show you those. And it might give you some ideas for your craft room if you're lucky enough to have a space of your own to create a little haven for craftiness. So you can find me on Instagram, Ravelry or Facebook as Craft House Magic, and I also have my own website, crafthousemagik.co.uk, where you can find show notes for the podcast, and also things in my online shop such as handmade project bags, hand-dyed yarn, needles, notions, and all things to do with knitting basically. We have two make-alongs going on at the moment. We have the Retro Mal, where we're making all things related to anything retro. Any tenuous link is very, very welcome, and you can use any sort of technique. So if you're doing sewing, knitting, crochet, woodwork, anything, come and join us. Love to see what you're making. And that is going on in the Ravelry group. There's links to the Ravelry group in the down bar and also in the show notes as well. And we also have the knit along for the Right Around the Corner shawl, and that is going on both in the Ravelry group but also on Instagram as well. And we have a hashtag for that to use on Instagram, which is Right Around the Corner shawl, CHMKAL. So you can use the hashtag when you post things on Instagram, or you can just go and have a look and see how everyone's getting on. It's a really nice shawl and I shall show you my progress in a minute. So because it's the special 100th episode, I thought I'd do a giveaway. So what I'm going to do is, if you guys make a comment down below and tell me what is your favourite product in my shop, I shall pick a winner, and based on whatever you've written in the write-up, I shall send you a prize. Because it's so nice to have you guys supporting the podcast and letting me get to episode 100 and having so many viewers, so thank you so much. We are nearly at 10,000 subscribers. I could never believe that so many people would subscribe to my channel. It's absolutely amazing. Thank you so much. So let's get on with the good stuff. We'll start with the knitting first, as always. So I've been working on my Right Around the Corner shawl with the knit along with everybody. So this is how my Right Around the Corner shawl's looking. So the needles are running along this side, and I'm going to be picking up stitches along this edge down here, and then there'll be another section on that side as well. So it's just a lovely simple shape, but really cleverly written, I think. It's because it tells you the percentage of yarn that you need to have knitted up in this section to basically use up most of your yarn. So I will see how that goes, because I do like to use up all my yarn so I don't have too much stash left over, although I do have my corner to corner crochet blanket that I like using my scraps in anyway. So it's all good. So it's a beautiful garter stitch texture there. I love it so much, really lovely. So this is knitted out of my own hand-dyed yarn in my stellina base, so it's got merino nylon and a little bit of stellina in, and there are two colourways. These are the colourways that I'm using. So this is Here Comes the Rain again, and it's a tonal grey with little speckles of grey in. And this one here is a sort of tonal coral pink with grey speckles in as well, but I think you can just about see that sparkle there. You can always see sparkle better in real life. I'm not quite sure why it doesn't ever pick up that well on the camera, but you get the idea. So I'm really excited to start the next section. Basically the two sections either side are one of each colour, so you'll be able to see the two colours a little bit better sort of when they're separate rather than striped together. But very, very squishy. Always love a lovely squishy shawl. And I am housing it in my beautiful project bag from my friend Caroline from the Love to Sew podcast. Hi Caroline! I keep using this quite a lot actually. It's a lovely pink bag, and I thought that the pink went quite well with the coral and the grey, so you have to have a matching project bag to the project, I think. So on my needles, actually, I have been knitting on somebody else's project. So Adam has been knitting on this hat for a little while, and he keeps moaning that he hates ribbing. So this is the sockhead hat, and the pattern is by Kelly McClure, and I have knitted this myself before, but I thought that it might be an idea for Adam to knit this because it's quite easy, because you can just keep going round and round and round. So he'd knitted probably about that much, and he was moaning so much about the rib. I said, look, I'll finish the rib off for you, so that then you can just plain knit all the way around and you can relax, because he does tend to knit when we have friends over, so it's nice for him not to have to think too much, because he has to concentrate on Pearl, bless him. So I finished that off for him, but this yarn is absolutely gorgeous. I really like how that's knitting up. So this is a beautiful yarn that my friend Peggy sent Adam for a present, and it's called Scribbles on Knits Fibres, and it is in the colourway is on a different piece of paper, and it's in the colourway Light Speed, and there's a little explanation as to what the colourway means, which I think is really cute. But it absolutely, it's so beautiful. It's quite dark, so I think it made it more difficult for Adam to sort of see his pearls from his knits. So I thought, just do the ribbon and then he can get on with it. And actually, last night he did knit about 3 rows. You can just about see it at the top there. Which is quite a lot for him, so I think that that's going to help. So that's Adam's project I helped him with, which took me absolutely ages at the weekend. I'm not quite sure why. Oh, plus I was fixing some of the pearls in the wrong place so that it would be perfect. So for crochet, I have done a few more rows, which doesn't look much different, to be honest, on my corner to corner crochet blanket. But because it's such a long edge now, going corner to corner, it takes forever. But you can see that I've done a few more rows since the last time I showed it to you. But again, loving the texture this is. And I did have, well, somebody commented that it's actually quite a nice shape for a shawl, being a triangle. But I think I like, it's so heavy that it might be nice just to be a nice big blanket, like a lap blanket. Not, well, not mega big, because I'm not going to be crocheting my entire life, but it's going to be big enough to go over the 2 of our laps, I think, when we're watching the TV. But I do love the sort of muted colours, and I think I need some lighter colours to come back into it again to balance this bit out, because I've had quite a few sort of brighter or darker colours lately, but I think a few pops of them brighter or darker colours looks quite nice balance. So this is taken from a pattern that's from a tutorial that Bella Coco published on YouTube. I will leave links to this tutorial in the top of the page just there, so you can find it. I'm basically using a 4mm needle because I'm using 2 strands of yarn together. I'm using an undyed yarn and also a magic knot ball that I've made up. So I'm using the magic knot technique to tie up scraps of yarn that are sort of 1 metre roundabouts or more, to make a big ball, so then I can just keep crocheting and you end up with all the different colours. So I shall leave a link to my magic knot tutorial as well if you're interested. So there we go. It doesn't look a lot different from last week, I'm afraid, though, but I did do a few rows. But that is all my crafting I've got to show you. But again, I'm going to show you my craft room tour, so that'll be a bit of something exciting for you to see for the special 100th episode. But I thought I'd just quickly chat about what I'm going to try and be doing at the weekend. So I've made a little list of what projects I want to sort of try and complete, or at least make a good effort on in each of the months of the year. So this is my planning, trying to get things done more than 3 out of my 9 last year. So in January I want to get the right around the corner shawl finished, but whether I'll get this finished I don't know, we'll see. And also the Tobin sweater, the sewing pattern. So the Tobin sweater is a cashmerette pattern, and it's got a nice big collar with some buttons on it. Or there is another version that's got like a saggy neck. I can't think what a saggy neck is supposed to be called. So I want to make one of those this weekend, and I've got some sort of mid-blue double knit sort of fabric, so I'm going to try see if I can get one of those out of it. I'll just make sure that I can get it out before I start cutting. But normally I can get a top out of a smaller amount than it says on the pattern, just by being a bit more just by spending a bit more time fiddling with the pattern piece, so don't waste any fabric. So there we go. And I've also want to use some of the muslin I have to make some little cloths. I'll overlook them around the edges to put in the kitchen to use instead of kitchen towels, and I think that might be a good idea, because then it saves throwing sort of paper towels away and reusing things. So I'm going to try and do that, but you shall see whether I've achieved it next week. And I'm going to pop the bit in where I'm going to show my craft room now. So this is the normal view you can see at the back of my podcast. I've basically got loads of IKEA storage units here. Actually, you can see I've got a tabletop ironing board there, which I pop on here when I'm using it. And then I've got loads of these storage, overhead storage boxes. I've got like my paper card making stuff in there. I've got loads of scraps left over from bag making in this box, and there's my camera stuff in this one, for example. And this one's got all my project bags that aren't being used at the moment. So I've got my yarn winder that Adam made me at the top there stored away, and that Jacob's biscuit tin has got all my lavender in it. I've got lots of these drawers again, and a spare chair in here, so when Adam feels like coming to join me at the weekend and having a chat. My shelves are a bit of a mess at the moment, because I've got a big plastic drawer on there with my zips in, but those are going to be sorted out soon in fabric storage bags that I'm going to hang sort of from the back of the door, and maybe on these hooks here instead of the yarn. We shall see. I've got my iron there at the moment, and some bits and bobs that I'm going to try and put away somewhere else. You can see that I've got a stack of project bags from Current Whips just there. There's supposed to be a basket with them in, but they're overflowing a little bit at the moment. Oh dear. I've got some fabric that I use for making tote bags at the back there, and you can see that I've got a bit of a stock of yarn for the shop there. Some labels for putting on things. Bit of a mess at the moment. So I have my ironing board at the back there with another bag full of zips and my Katie Green poster at the back, and you can see that I've got some cardboard boxes there for actually packaging orders. We actually changed it so that this door goes outwards instead of coming in to make more space for stuff. Oh dear, and it does actually need a coat of paint, so that's why that's a bit scrappy at the moment. So here's my general working area, and I've got actually 2 cutting boards stacked on top of each other in case I need to cut out bigger things, and I'll move this to the side there. But I have a range of rotary cutters that I'd like to use, and I like all these because of different things. So smaller one like this is handy for going around smaller curves. This one, to be honest, is a little bit small and rickety, so I don't tend to use that one. But I've got this one which I can do zigzag so things don't fray. This is my standard fabric one. I use this for paper, and this is a larger one actually that I thought would be good for cutting big stacks of fabric, but I don't think that's any better than this one really. A couple of pairs of scissors, and my pens, because you always need a few pens. I find this quite handy here, having my rulers hooked on the wall so that I can quickly grab them. I tend to use this one quite a lot, it's one of my favourites. And there's a little square one I use for cutting the corners when I'm making project bags as well. I've got several bins here. This is my fabric scraps bag, and I basically collect all my bits of fabric for recycling so that it doesn't get wasted. Here's my standard bin, but then I've got a paper recycle down there as well, so that I can separate and recycle things a bit better. I have a little trolley here that's from IKEA to store bits and bobs in for packaging and things. I have my business cards, packing materials there, and I've got my washi tapes and sellotape and things here, stitch markers, needles, little bits of card that I use for putting stitch markers on, and of course a little bit of stationery. Some more sellotape and some yarn there that I give little minis for when I do each parcel. Again, I've got a lot of these IKEA drawers to store things in, and lots more overhead storage up here. I found these storage bars really useful. They're from IKEA and they're basically for kitchen storage, but I find them super useful for hanging things off. I have a pot. This pot is made for, supposed to be kitchen cutlery, I think, and I've got my wonder clips in there. I've got quite a lot of those, and my magnetic pin thing just stores there nicely because it's magnetic, and my thread catcher, very useful. I've got my sock blockers at the back, and then I've got a lot of storage boxes at the top, most of which there are all yarn. Actually, that one's yarn as well, I think. Oh dear. And I've basically got all my things to hand that I need, really. Another little tip that I quite liked, I bought this chain. I think it's basically for putting plugs onto in the bathroom, but I got a length of chain with a joining thing just there, so that I can hook up my ribbon for when I want to package orders, and I can grab it quite easily there. So that's quite handy. I have got quite a lot of, I've got a few more sewing machines over here. So this is my Quilt Expression 4.2, which I mainly use most of the time. I've got a Benina cover stitch machine, and I've got an overlocker just there. If you've been watching podcasts recently, you'll know that I want to make some covers for these, and also for the ones over here as well. So I have recently purchased this pegboard that's at the back there of my machine, and I've got a little shelf, and I find it really useful to hold massive rolls of thread on, just so that I can grab them as I'm sewing. So I normally pull this machine out towards me, and then I can actually get at these bobbin holders just at the back there, and I've got access to a lot of threads. So my friend Terry made me this little seahorse, which is up there. And I have a bit of a Harry Potter display going on here. I need to put up another hook up the top there so I can put my other pin pennant, which is over this side. So that should be over here as well, but it will be put up there at some point. So in terms of my lighting, I've got some fairy lights all around the top of the room, and I love these because when I can leave the rest of the lights off, and it's quite cosy here then. Please excuse the fact that I haven't changed the battery in my clock. Oh dear. I have some under unit lighting here and on the other side as well that Adam fitted for me. They're just some LED lights. It just gives me a little bit more light when I'm working here. And I also have a bit of a plant obsession, as you can see. I love succulents. This is my favourite one here. I think they call it string of pearls, but there's a posher name for it, a Latin name, which I can never remember. But I do have a couple more plants there as well. Love them. It's now night time, so I've got the blinds shut, so it isn't particularly brilliant light, but I do have my studio lights on here just to lighten the room up a bit. There we go. As you can tell, I am slightly obsessed with IKEA, and I do have a lot of these drawers, and I find these inserts that you can get from IKEA ideal for putting fat quarters in, and then you can take that out when you want to search through them and have several, one after the other, just to make things a bit more organised. In these drawers over here, I have like a drawer for packing materials with tissue paper and bags. You can actually see some bangles I've got there. I've collected those for doing bobbin lace with, but they're tucked away there. I have a lot of thread. There's one of the drawers that I have full of thread. It's a little bit messy, but that's I want to pack in as much as I possibly can into this drawer because I really need to store this thread. I've got bigger cones of thread in there that I use for my overlocker, and then I have a bit of a button problem over this side. So these are the pink ones. I have, these are sort of black, navy, darker coloured buttons, and cream and white, and in this tin is all my silvery ones. And there's also blue ones at the very bottom. So there we go. I have a lot of buttons. So basically most of that unit is just buttons. So back to this side again. I've got one of these tray units. It's basically meant for a kitchen, and I've got bits and pieces that I can grab on there, some snips, my unpicker, etc. And I have a piece of scrap fabric that I put all my needles in that I've started to use, so that I know that you know, I can only use them a few times and they need chucking, but rather than putting them back in the box, I know which ones have been used and they're labelled because I've scribbled the name on. But I really should make like a pin cushion or something that looks a bit prettier than a scrap of fabric. I have a little pot here where I keep all my used needles so that they don't stab inside the bin. That's it really, lots of bits and bobs everywhere. I have a shelf up here which normally houses all my little minis, but I've put them all in my corner to corner crochet blanket at the moment. And this printer is where I print my postage labels on. And of course, this is my Alexa. I can't say it too loud because she'll hear. And then I've got a bit of display up there. So I've now turned all the lights off. Sometimes I'll sit in my chair and just do some knitting with the little twinkly lights on because it's so cute. It kind of ruins the image having this big studio light up, but I will dismantle that in a bit. I only use it on podcast days. It gets put away in a bag. So there we go. So I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to see more, and I shall see you in the next episode. Bye!